Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we get to take a first look at Mega Dragonite making its debut in the Mega Master League. Now, Mega Dragonite released a week early for the people who attended the LA Go Tour. Now, unfortunately, I did not attend that tour, but the good news is today we have two battle submissions, one from Just Dirk and one from Wild Winslow, so we get to take a look at Mega Dragonite in action. Now, Mega Dragonite at Mega Level 4 actually gets to level 52, and with Best Buddy level 53, so this is the first time we get to see a level 53 Pokemon in the Mega Master League. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in Game 1, off to a pretty nice start leading Zamazenta into Mega Gyarados. Opponent safe switches into Gholdengo, and Gholdengo is going to be answered with Palkia. Gholdengo has one of the best typings you could ever ask for. It is a Steel Ghost type, but unfortunately, Gholdengo's stats are a bit lacking in the Mega Master League. Palkia will start spamming out Aqua Tails, and even just the Aqua Tail spam should be enough to KO Gholdengo. Once Gholdengo gets KO'd, Gyarados is going to get a pretty healthy farm down for the opponent, and that energy could be problematic for Zamazenta. In comes Zamazenta, opponent reveals their final Pokemon is Zacian, and this could be a very tricky game to win. Dragonite does have a winning matchup into Gyarados, but unfortunately the Zacian is very strong into both the Zamazenta and the Dragonite. Zamazenta has to decide, is it going to put up the shield? It does, as Zacian will go for the close combat. Getting the call right that the opponent did go for the close combat and not the Behemoth Blade is actually a pretty massive call, because now these Ice Fangs are adding up a lot on Zacian. Zamazenta going for the double shield, trying to preserve as much HP as possible as Zacian fires off yet another close combat. There's a pivot by the opponent, sending back in the Gyarados, but Gyarados is immediately answered with the close combat that will force the shield. In comes Mega Dragonite for the very first time. Dragonite has to hope it's not an Outrage, and it's not, it's just going to be a Crunch. Crunch still does quite a lot of damage, but Mega Dragonite gets to strike back. Thunder Punch into the Gyarados will deal healthy damage. Gyarados, now critically low, is forced to fire off a Crunch to KO the Dragonite. Crunch lands, Dragonite, no, it doesn't get KO'd, I stand corrected. Dragonite hangs on, opponent makes a catch of a Thunder Punch onto the Zacian. And now it's a race, Zamazenta versus Gyarados. Gyarados needs the double up, but it cannot get there. They only get to one Aqua Tail, and Zamazenta will survive. Aqua Tail lands on the charge attack priority die as Zamazenta gets Behemoth Bash. That game looked a little bit scary, but it will end in a win. Hopping into game number 2, leading Zamazenta into Zacian. This is a pretty familiar matchup, and Zacian is a little bit awkward for Zamazenta just because Zacian does have the pacing advantage and can hit for massive super effective damage with close combat. Zamazenta has farmed up quite a lot of energy, Zacian threatening devastating damage. Shield comes up on the close combat, and Zamazenta is going to fire off a close combat of its own. Zacian is going to match shields. Oh, what a beautiful catch, switching into the Mega Dragonite to catch the resistant close combat. That's a very nice play. Opponent retreats into Palkia, but I don't think Palkia is going to like the fact that it gets outpaced to a Dragon Claw. Palkia has to shield this because if they do not, they're getting one shot. They no shield, Palkia gets KO'd, and back in comes the Zacian. Zacian was forced to pivot out because Zacian was debuffed due to the close combat. Dragonite no shields, and it survives the close combat. Oh, this is the worst case scenario for the Zacian. Dragonite hangs on, pressures the shield, and there's the combo play with Zamazenta. Zamazenta saved the close combat from earlier. That takes the knockout in the back. They have their own Mega Dragonite, and they're just getting torn to smithereens by Ice Fang. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Train lead in the next match as Zamazenta once again leads into Dragonite. Opponent save switches into Palkia, and so far they are just completely core broken by the Zamazenta. Zamazenta is going to have a little bit of an awkward time trying to damage this Palkia with charge attacks, because if you fire off the close combat, then suddenly those Aqua Tails are going to do a ton of damage. Close combat lands, there's the switch into Palkia, and that's very nicely done. Landing one Aqua Tail before the debuff, catching the second Aqua Tail, and resetting that close combat debuff. And now if the opponent brings back in the Dragonite, that's honestly probably the best case scenario, because the Palkia is up energy. This means Palkia is going to make the Spatial Rend before they're able to make the Dragon Claw. Palkia going for the bait, hoping for the shield. Dragonite will put up the shield. Dragonite knows it's going to have to throw energy, and does. They'll probably just fire off the Thunder Punch here. Thunder Punch will take the KO, as Dragonite does hit very hard. Back in comes Zamazenta. For Zamazenta, this feels like a very safe one-shield farm down. Try and exit with as much energy as possible, because there could be Zacian lurking in the back. In comes Zacian. Zamazenta farms up to the back-to-back close combats, and this should be game over. Close combat lands, immediately followed by the Behemoth Bash. This will pressure the final shield, and then Dragonite can sweep. In comes Dragonite, flying high. Behemoth Blade will inflict some pretty severe damage onto the Dragonite, but Dragonite no shields, it can survive. Look at the stat product on Dragonite, and Dragonite strikes back. Thunder Punch lands, Zacian gonna be pivoting out into their own Dragonite. They make a last second charge attack, but Dirk is still just not gonna shield. Thunder Punch lands, taking the KO, but Zamazenta's here to shut it all down. Down goes Dragonite, down goes Zacian, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, we see the Dream lead Zamazenta into Dialga. Bonus save switches into Primarina, but this is not really an answer to Zamazenta. The charms hit for neutral, but Zamazenta just has such a strong stat product compared to Primarina. Primarina has some of the worst stats of any Master League Pokemon. That's why if it's not in a type advantage matchup, it just gets completely outmatched. Zamazenta will be able to make the Behemoth Bash, trying to farm up and throw in good timing, as the opponent will fire off another Hydro. Zamazenta will decide to match shields and pivot into the Dragonite, because enough damage has been done that Dragonite can just take a knockout with Thunder Punch and have a bunch of residual energy for when the Dialga gets brought back in. Down goes Primarina, opponent sends back in Dialga. No superpower available to this Dragonite, but this is still a same type attack bonus, Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw is gonna land devastating damage onto Dialga, which immediately hits back hard with the Iron Head. Iron Head is going to land, Dragonite hangs on, there's the pivot into Palkia, and the opponent has a Mega Charizard Y in the back, and they know there's nothing they can do against Palkia, so they will resign the match. We've got the Battle of Dogs in the next match, Zamazenta into Zacian. I believe this is the final battle of Dirk's battles, and then we'll take a look at a Wild Winslow's. Now, a Wild Winslow is actually running a different moveset on the Dragonite, so we kind of get a bit of compare and contrast here to take a look at which moveset will be preferred. Aggressive pivot into the Dragonite as Zacian will fire off the Behemoth Blade. That does do monster damage as in comes Palkia. Ooh, is Palkia gonna respect this? Dragonite, can it land the Dragon Claw through two shields? No, it cannot. Shield comes up from the Palkia, and Palkia will get a big farm down. Zamazenta was able to keep itself basically at full HP, and that's gonna be very, very clutch here. As this Palkia has so much energy, but the Zamazenta can very comfortably absorb that energy as it looks to reach for close combat. Aqua Tail number 2 is going to connect. Zamazenta gets the close combat. There's the switch and the catch. Able to save the energy, catch the Aqua Tail onto Palkia, and that should set himself up very nicely. In the back, the opponent is going to reveal Reshiram. Reshiram does take some pretty significant damage from the Dragon Breaths here. Question is, can this Palkia ever farm it into Aqua Tail range? That's the goal. Farmed up to the back-to-back Aqua Tails, firing off the Aqua Tail here. Reshiram will put up the shield, immediately followed by Aqua Tail number 2. This is only neutral damage. Will it be enough to secure the knockout? Reshiram hangs on, but gets farmed down. Back in comes their own Palkia, but they can't get the farm down. The Aqua Tail is reached. It's double resisted, but it will still take the KO. Zamazenta locked and loaded with the close combat. Gonna overfarm as well, and close combat is gonna be knocking out that Zacian. It looks like the opponent ended up force closing the app there at the end. But the close combat lands, and that's a win. We now move to the second battle submission, which is going to feature Mega Dragonite running Dragon Breath, Superpower, and Dragon Claw. So a slightly different moveset, so we now get to compare and contrast as to which moveset is going to be preferred. The opposing Zacian in this Zacian lead mirror is best buddied, and that means they're going to be winning charge stack priority, and unfortunately having to go down shields first in the Zacian mirror is not a fun place to be. Close combat shielded both ways, and a very nice close combat catch onto that Mega Dragonite. Dragonite easily absorbs that damage, and the Zacian is staying on the field. Zacian farms up a ton of energy, sending in the Palkia just to get absolutely destroyed by Dragon Claw. Palkia too far behind, they call the bait, and they regret it dearly. Dragonite gets the full farm down, back in comes the Zacian, but Zacian is immediately getting smacked with Superpower. Superpower is going to force the shield. There's the snipe with the Zacian, and everything is going wrong for the opponent. Oh my goodness. Close combat takes the KO. In the back is Mega Gyarados, and the opponent, they can't do anything except watch as their Gyarados gets destroyed by close combat. Close combat will not take the knockout, but it will deal irreparable harm to the Gyarados and render it unable to sweep this endgame. Close combat is going to land. Switch timer coming up soon, but not soon enough. Zacian will get KO'd, but the opponent basically has 1 HP on the Gyarados, so in comes Dragonite, not even going to need the Palkia for game number 1. Picking up a very bad lead in game number 2, Zacian into Primal Groudon. The safe switch into Palkia is going to be answered with Dialga, and this is not really an answer post-Dragon Breath rework. Palkia full sends the Spatial Rend, it connects, and that is devastating damage onto Dialga. Dialga does make it to the Draco Meteor. Palkia not gonna shield, will get KO'd, but this will set up a nice farm down for the Dragonite. Dragonite up energy should do very well into the Groudon. They send in their final Pokemon, and it's Zacian. Dragonite gonna have to debuff itself if it wants to do any meaningful damage. Gets a very nice catch, but by not debuffing first before switching out, I think it might end up in an endgame where Dragonite can't do enough damage. Back in comes the Groudon. It's actually a Mudshot Groudon to my surprise, and unfortunately that means that Groudon is going to get that full farm down. Back in comes the Dragonite, going for broke, going for the Dragon Claw, looking just to take the knockout. Groudon says no, it puts up the shield. And Groudon, I imagine, will be firing off Precipice Blades. It's double resisted, but it will still do quite a lot of damage, but no, they actually go for the Fire Punch. Fire Punch not going to do a ton of damage. Dragon Claw will take the knockout, and now Dragonite is going to have to get to a ton of superpowers. Unfortunately, each successive superpower is going to do less and less damage. It's -1 attack and -1 defense each time it's thrown. First superpower connects. That does huge damage. Maybe there is a chance. It all comes down to this. Will a -2 superpower KO the Zacian? It's the moment of truth. Dragonite's at 1 HP. This has to knock out. Superpower lands. No, they survive. A fraction of HP remaining. And unfortunately, that game will end in defeat. We've got another Zacian mirror in the next match. And this opponent does not have the best buddy boost equipped either. This means it is going to be a true coin flip. And unfortunately, the opponent wins the 50-50. That's quite unfortunate, but the catch and close combat on a Dragonite play did work very, very well in the first match, so we'll see if it'll happen again. And again, it works 2 for 2 on catch and close combats. They're now going to be at -4 defense, so the Zacian has to pivot out, and they pivot out into Palkia. Palkia gonna get outpaced. Dragon Claw is reached by the Dragonite. Will we see 2 for 2 on Dragonite's getting absolutely destroyed? No, Palkia will put up the shield. I imagine Dragonite just gonna let this go now. The opponent will go for the Aqua Tail. That does basically nothing. Dragonite may have made a superpower there, and that forces them to fire off of their Aqua Tail. So they're forced to burn a lot of energy just to get rid of the Dragonite, and now in comes Palkia. Palkia will get a big energy head start. Oh, did they get there? The shield comes up. They did not. They were just short, but back in comes the Zacian. Zacian had its energy caught, so it's just going to get strictly outpaced here. Aqua Tail is going to land, and the Palkia can even overfarm a little bit as well. Palkia will be able to take the very clean knockout onto the Zacian, and there's still a charge attack loaded in the back. In comes Primal Groudon. Primal Groudon going to be absolutely destroyed by this double super effective Aqua Tail. That puts it very low, and there's the snipe down with the Zacian. Aqua Tail not gonna one-shot because Groudon has a huge stat product, but the damage is done. Combo play takes the knockout and gets the win. Picking up a positive lead in the next match, Zacian into Gyarados. Now, Gyarados can actually make this matchup very, very uncomfortable, especially once Zacian debuffs himself with close combat. Those Aqua Tails will absolutely add up. Zacian farming up, but to my surprise, the Gyarados actually fires off energy. This is amazing for the Zacian. Zacian always wants to tank 2 Aqua Tails before throwing the close combat. Now, close combat is going to be shielded up. There's a pivot out into Ho-Oh, and unfortunately, I don't think Ho-Oh is the play in the Mega Master League meta. Ho-Oh is very, very feast or famine. If it's not aligned onto a Zacian, then it's going to be in a really tough spot. This is the Shadow Ho-Oh as well, so it does do a lot of damage with the Brave Bird, but even that is not enough to KO Palkia. Back in comes Gyarados, but Zacian already has the close combat. This is going to force a 2-0 shield advantage, and from there, it should be the Dragonite show. Gyarados, oh no, they CMP-tied the Zacian. That is so unfortunate for the opponent. They reveal their final Pokemon is Primarina. Now this is where Thunder Punch would be quite nice for the Dragonite. Thunder Punch would easily 2-shot, but with Superpower, it looks like Superpower may fall a little bit short. The opponent stopped tapping there for a little bit. I think they might have given up, but then realized, wait, there's no Thunder Punch here. They go for the Hydro Cannon. It does not KO. Dragonite is going to make Superpower number 2. Superpower is going to be getting them very, very low. Dragonite gets farmed down, but this sets up farm for the Zacian. Zacian takes the free Metal Claw as the opponent ends up under-tapping the Hydro Cannon. Switch timer's up. They pivot into Gyarados. It's a race to the move, but Gyarados does not get there. The close combat is reached. Gyarados gets KO'd. Primarina gets farmed down, and somehow that game ends in a win. Picking up a familiar lead and a very unwelcome one in the next match, leading into Groudon. A safe switch into the Mega Dragonite, answered with Florges. again, being walled here is definitely not ideal for the Dragonite. Superpower does actually get the shield, so getting a shield advantage out of this matchup is realistically all the Dragonite could ever hope for. Or just goes for Chilling Water, so they could be on Chilling Water Trailblaze. I do think that Chilling Water Moonblast is definitely the moveset to go for in this meta. Trailblaze, unfortunately, does not really do a lot for you. Even with the Dragonite being so heavily debuffed, these Fairy Winds are still doing nothing. It just shows the stat product difference on these mons. Since the opponent is walled here, the Dragonite could even be saved. And it is. Simultaneous switch, Palkia into the Groudon, and Groudon through Fire Punch. They don't have enough energy for a Precipice Blades, a great no shield, and this Groudon is in trouble. They tried to save the Florges and snipe with a Fire Punch, but it backfires as it gets caught onto the Palkia. They will make it to the Precipice Blades, and Palkia is just gonna no shield. Palkia getting KO'd, setting up for the Zacian. Zacian gets a nasty Metal Claw farm down. Back in comes the Florges. Florges will be able to apply debuffs, but Chilling Water does basically no damage to Zacian. That's a very comfortable survive. In the back, it's Primarina as the final Pokemon, and Primarina definitely would have been the more convincing answer into the Dragonite, because Primarina at least would have had the fast move pressure, but unfortunately the Florges ending up being walled definitely put them in a very tough spot, because the Florges was stuck going for Chilling Water after Chilling Water, and the opponent, understandably, is going to resign the match. And now, let's chat for a little bit about Mega Dragonite. So Mega Dragonite is the first meta-viable Mega Pokemon released after the most recent Mega rework. This adds Mega Level 4, which, once you complete it, is what allows you to get the 2 extra levels on that Mega Pokemon to get it up to level 52, or with Best Buddy Boost, level 53. Now, 2 extra levels does make a bit of a difference for an already strong Mon. So Mega Dragonite, even at level 50, is already a very strong Mega Master League Mon. I would argue it's right up at like the A tier Mega, where you can use this Mon and it's going to put in some very serious work for you. It has a great stat product, a very efficient moveset. As far as the moveset battle between Thunder Punch Dragon Claw and Superpower Dragon Claw, there's also Superpower Thunder Punch. I personally lean a bit more towards Thunder Punch Dragon Claw, just because having a move to hit the fairies could have been clutch in a few games, because if you run into something like a Florges or a Xerneas and you're stuck throwing superpowers, then it does make it a bit of a tougher game to win. I do think that Superpower and its just raw damage can be really nice in matchups like against Zacian, but personally, when I do eventually get a Mega Dragonite, I think the set that I'll probably try is that Superpower Dragon Claw set, because it seems like it has coverage kind of across the board, and with its very impressive stats, like being able to tank a Behemoth Blade just to the face and still be in the yellow was kind of shocking to me, because Dragonite in the regular Master League, it has decent bulk, but it's nothing crazy, but the Mega Dragonite, that's when things get a little bit fun. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching today's video, please do support the channel by leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.